nor the was.
Folks, up front, I want to state that this video is in no way a complete guide to prepping. This video is just simply to help out brand new preppers who want to start prepping but don't know where to begin. I also want to point out that I'll put links down in the description box to whatever items and or videos that I talk about in this video. And I'm going to go by what every person needs to survive: shelter, water, food, protection, personal hygiene, and then medical. And I'm going to use the old adage of a person being able to survive 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and then 3 weeks without food, etc. And this list will be in the order of what I think is most important to least important. And of course, everybody will have their own ideas of what's more important. But if I were a beginner prepper, this would be the course of action I would follow to have a starting point in order to start building up my preps. And I think it's probably best to build up all of your preps equally, to build all of them up a little at a time. So once you get your week's worth of water, then go for a week's worth of food, etc. And once you get a week's worth of all of your preps, then start working on the second week's worth of these same preps. I just don't think it will do you any good to have a year's worth of food, but then have no water to cook that food, or to die from a simple cut that got infected, etc. Now the first thing that you need is shelter. Now I won't spend too much time on this because I'm going to assume that if you're watching this video, then it's probably from your home. Now down the road you'll want to get alternative shelters that you can have the option to go to if SHTF happens. But that's a little bit down the road for many brand new preppers at this point. And my video that's titled How to Get into a Prepper Retreat Group talks about how to join prepper groups and retreat groups for alternative shelter should you have to bug out from your home. The second thing that you're going to need is water, and if a real SHTF situation happens, you may not be able to depend on water from your sink. So some good things to start off with are the water bob, which is a bladder that you put into your bathtub and fill with water. This will obviously only be good if you know beforehand that the city water will be shut off, but it's a good backup to have. And you can also buy gallons of water at the grocery store, usually for about $1 per gallon. Now if you do this, you'll want to buy the gallons that are made of the thicker plastic. The thinner plastic jugs will sometimes degrade faster than what you want, and you may end up with a bunch of water in your house. Now what I highly suggest is getting rain barrels to catch rainwater if you live in an area that gets any rain at all. This is a great way to get backup water that will replenish itself each time that it rains. Now I got my food grade 55-gallon drums for $25 each. And if money is tight for you, you should consider buying only 1 or 2 drums at first until you get some of your other preps built up. Then go back and revisit buying more drums. To see a very easy way to set up rain barrels at your house, watch my video titled Water for SHTF, a Poor Man's Rain Catchment. And also be sure to search out other videos on the subject too, because you'll see some much better systems than what I've done. Now a good rule of thumb is to try to prep for 1 gallon of water per person per day in your household. And this is a minimum amount just for drinking and cooking. You may even want to consider eventually getting to the point where you have 2 or 3 gallons of water per person per day for cleaning and hygiene. Now with water, you're going to want a way to purify that water. And it's my understanding that Berkey water filters, actually called Elements, are the best. Now a Berkey water purifier can be expensive, sometimes running over $200. But you can always just buy the filters themselves and then make your own water purification system using 2 food grade buckets. Now the Elements by themselves can be expensive too. They'll run you about $100 for 2 of them. But it's my understanding that the Sawyer all-in-one filter is pretty good also, and the whole setup will cost you about $72. Now it's my understanding that the Berkey will remove a few more contaminants than the Sawyer, but I think they both have their pluses and their minuses. And of course, if you have the money, then buy the both. Now since we've got shelter and water out of the way, now let's move on to the next subject in order of importance, which is food. Now if I were just starting to prep, I would probably go out and buy me a couple of weeks worth of ramen noodles up front. They're super cheap, and at least they'll give you some sustenance should SHTF hit tomorrow. After that, I would buy rice and a variety of different beans that you will need to put into Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. They're also called O2 absorbers. But put these in Mylar bags with O2 absorbers for long-term food storage into food-grade buckets. Be sure to search out storing food long-term here on YouTube. Maybe use the search term how to store rice long-term. You'll find that there's a lot of videos that show how to put these foods into the Mylar bags and then use the oxygen absorbers. And doing this to get dried foods like rice and beans to last up to 30 years. Now, a 50-pound bag of rice may cost you between $20 to $40 depending on where you buy it at. And it's my understanding that you want to buy white rice because I've heard that brown rice doesn't have the same lengthy shelf life as white rice. Now, while rice will